which teams that we're not really paying attention to, which teams that, a down year, we're overlooking, that actually could be primed to make a run, to capitalize on the craziness, on the wonkiness of 2020, and parlay that into a playoff spot, parlay that into a playoff run. Now remember, the playoffs expanded this year, so it goes from 6 teams each conference to 7 teams. So that just opens up and makes it a better shot for at least 1 or 2 teams to sneak in there that we didn't expect. So I have 2 from the AFC, 2 from the NFC. Love to get your thoughts. Who is the surprise playoff team in the NFL this year? Check my 2 candidates from the AFC first. This is going to sound wild. Team with the first overall pick in the draft this past year. Team that went 2-14. But to me, the Cincinnati Bengals have the possibility of making a surprise run, similar to the White Sox, similar to the Padres, and being in playoff contention. Here's why. Their offense is actually pretty skilled. You got Joe Burrow, and I think a lot of people expect, and so far through camp, Joe Burrow has looked like the 2019 Joe Burrow, right? He's impressed. He's picked up where he left off from LSU and playing well so far. You couple that with a Pro Bowl receiver in A.J. Green. You hope he can stay healthy, but if he's healthy, A.J. Green is still a very good wide receiver. Tyler Boyd has stepped in and become the number 1 when A.J. Green has gone down. Joe Mixon's a very good young running back. Auden Tate is really getting in the mix as a good complementary wide receiver. So the offense has talent. There are pieces already in place for Joe Burrow to throw the ball to, hand the ball off to, and dump it down to. So a plays can be made. And now their offensive line is very weak. Very weak. But the good news is, if we look at a silver lining, we've seen Joe Burrow plenty of times at LSU get hit in the mouth, get hit hard, bounce right back up, and continue to play well. He doesn't really get rattled too much by pressure in his face. So that's what you need. That's what you need. So the offense has pieces. The defensive line is very solid. And they have a chance to be a top 10 defensive line in the NFL. Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap, they just signed DJ Reader to be a real force up the middle. So they can get some disruption on the quarterback, slow down the run game. They have a chance to be pretty good. Not to mention, you look at least the AFC North division. Obviously, the Ravens are by far the best team. We expect them to win the division. I do like the Browns. I think they'll be a bounce-back team and be a playoff team. I'll be honest, where I get skeptical, I don't really know what to expect from the Steelers this year. I really like their defense. They have a great defense. But, I mean, does anyone really know or have any high expectations for Ben Roethlisberger? Coming off a year where he basically missed the entire year, played, a game and a half before injuring his elbow. He's up there in age, coming off an elbow injury to his throwing arm. I'm skeptical all of a sudden Big Ben coming in and being like his 2018 form, being like his 2017 form, throwing for 5,000 yards. There's no Antonio Brown. I think there's still questions about whether Juju Smith-Schuster could be a number 1 wide receiver. Injury concerns, at least with James Conner in the running game. I am not sold on the Steelers. So then because of that, the Bengals can work their way up, sneak their way up, and be in the hunt, be in contention for the playoffs. So the Bengals are my first team in the AFC. The other team I really like in the AFC that can make a surprise playoff run, the Los Angeles Chargers, coming off a 5-11 year. Philip Rivers had the worst year of his career. But let's look at the roster. I really like their roster. Joey Bosa, stud. Melvin Ingram, a great 1-2 punch with him and Joey Bosa getting after the quarterback. Derwin James just had an injury. He's going to be out now. But it's still a great, great piece in the secondary. The road line wasn't great last year. It is improved. They got a few pieces to make it a little bit better. They have a great tight end, Hunter Henry. A very solid wide receiver duo of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Austin Eckler, I like, because he's a very 2020 running back. He can catch the ball in the backfield. Tough to tackle. So most of this roster is intact from 2 years ago when the Chargers went 12-4. So you look at all our roster. Outside of the Chiefs, I like them the best out of the AFC West. I think their overall team is better than the Broncos. I think they're better than the Raiders. And because you have that great 1-2 punch of Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, you add Kenneth Murray, a very rangy linebacker. They have the opportunity and they have the pieces there to slow down the offenses in their own division. The Raiders are going to try to throw the ball a lot. The Broncos with Drew Lock are going to try to throw the ball a lot. And obviously we know what the Chiefs do. I think the Chargers have a defense built to slow these offenses down. Not to mention, obviously the biggest question for the Chargers is going to be quarterback. Justin Herbert, it looks like Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter day one. But as for Tyrod Taylor, he has the tools to just complement the offense. He doesn't turn the ball over, which is huge for this defense. If this defense can get stops, you can rely on Tyrod Taylor and not put them in bad positions. He has a lot of weapons to throw the ball to. So you could dump it off to Austin Eckler. You can maybe throw it underneath to Hunter Henry. Throw it up like Mike Williams, go get it. There's weapons there. There's options there. So I don't think a lot has to be asked from Tyrod Taylor to do a lot. So the Chargers, 5-11 last year. The Bengals, 2-14 last year. To me, two teams in the AFC that we could be sleeping on that can make surprise runs like we've seen in baseball from the Marlins, from the White Sox, and the Padres. NFC. How about the Atlanta Falcons? Right? Obviously, they're the team that maybe gets overlooked the most in this division. Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay, so all the attention's on the Buccaneers. Drew Brees is still there with the Saints. Oh, the Panthers are what they are. But that Falcons team, coming off a 7-9 year last year, their offense is loaded. We talked about the weapons Joe Burrow has and the solid offense that Tyrod Taylor has. You look at the Falcons' offense with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, you add Hayden Hurst. You get Todd Gurley off the scrap heap, essentially. Their offensive line, not great, but admittedly, filled with all high draft picks, which you hopefully can reach some sort of potential, reach some sort of ceiling. And that could improve from last year. Not to mention, with all the weapons that they have, Todd Gurley coming over from Los Angeles, getting cut, not really, having the production that he wanted in 2019, kind of getting hurt midway through 2018. He doesn't have to be the workhorse that he was in Los Angeles and St. Louis. They don't need him to run the ball 30 times and catch the ball to the backfield 10 times. Small doses could really work well for Todd Gurley, keep him healthy, but also keep him effective. So I like the Falcons offense. They have a lot of weapons there, could be very potent, and could keep up and score with the Buccaneers and could keep up and score with the Saints. Now, importantly as well, which I think is a big factor, especially in their division, their defense is loaded with veterans. Now, you're going to have rookies like Marlon Davidson on the defensive line, A.J. Terrell in the secondary. They're going to play major snaps as rookies. But you still have Grady Jarrett, great on the defensive line. Dante Fowler Jr., you hope you can get the Rams version of Dante Fowler Jr. from last year. Keanu Neal, Ricardo Allen, Deion Jones. Having that veteran leadership back there, experienced guys in the defense, again, going against the Saints and going against the Bucs. To me, especially in a weird year, without any preseason games, without really, off-season training the way you're used to, having veterans back there will be a major key to success. So I like that there's a lot of vets. Obviously the Falcons defense has struggled. I think this year more than ever. Again, when you're unable to basically work out the way you normally do, unable to train the way you're used to, when practices are very different or limited, and no preseason games to work the kinks out, and you basically start week one, let's go. I think it's important to have veterans, especially on the defense, if you want to have success. And, you could say maybe, every NFL season if there's no carryover. But look at the way the Falcons kind of finished 2019. They were a dumpster fire for most of it. They did finish 6-2 to end the year. Now, I think with all that veteran presence they have, both offensively and defensively, you can kind of use that momentum and carry with you to get off to a strong start this year. They saved the job of Dan Quinn. The defense, once Raheem Morris took over, did improve. So there's a chance they could take that 6-2 finish, get some confidence, and be a real force, be a real threat in that NFC South that obviously has all the attention based on the Buccaneers and based on the Saints. And a very tough NFC, and the Falcons' schedule is very tough. The pieces are there. So we can look up in late November, early December, like, wow, Falcons have a wild card spot right now, or they're just a game out of the wild card spot, but they're looking good. They have a chance. So the Falcons are my first NFC team that could really take some people by surprise. The second and final team I have, how about the Arizona Cardinals? 5-10-1 last year. Big time difference was Cliff Kingsbury, easier for me to say, comes in, teams up with Kyler Murray. And what that partnership, what that style of offense did was take a glaring weakness and make it not as bad. Because Kyler Murray is mobile, because Cliff Kingsbury kind of runs a quick throw, high-tempo offense, the offensive line was awful in 2018, excuse me, just awful when they got there. They made it a little bit better. It improved in 2019. And according to Pro Football Focus, right, a respected website, they do a ton of grades for all different positions, all different players. Excuse me, in their mind, the Cardinals had a top 10 pass blocking offense. So they protected Kyler Murray, and obviously all the questions we know about Kyler Murray is he's too short to play quarterback, he's too small to play in the NFL. Well, you got the offensive line that, according to PFF, was a top 10 pass blocking offensive line. And they're all going to grow, they're all going to get better. They drafted Josh Jones out of Houston, a very talented and highly regarded tackle that fell to the third round. Another year for this offense to grow. Not to mention, the offensive line's growing. How about the offense and the weapons that Kyler Murray has to throw to? You have Christian Kirk. You have Kenyon Drake now for a full season after he came over in the trade from Miami last year. You have Larry Fitzgerald, a great veteran presence in that wide receiver room. And oh yeah, now you have DeAndre Hopkins. Best hands in the NFL. Great and terrific route runner. Makes all the tough catches in traffic, right? He is what you want for a great he is what you want for a young quarterback. A big-time security blanket. Take over that role for Larry Fitzgerald. So, yeah, Kyler Murray will be more comfortable in year 2. His offense got better. The offensive line is growing. And they have a rangy and athletic defense. They get to the ball. They play sideline to sideline. Yeah, that fits in today's NFL. It does. So the Cardinals, again, a team that I think was, had some hype coming into the year, I do. You had Bucky Brooks saying that Kyler Murray is going to be the MVP this year. And Jay Glazer saying that Kyler Murray's his guy to take that massive jump like Patrick Mahomes did 2 years ago and Lamar Jackson did last year. So there is a lot of hype going for the Cardinals. So maybe, the expectations are a little bit higher than they are for the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Bengals especially. But still, 5-10. I don't think anyone's expecting the Cardinals, or expectations, I should say, should be for the playoffs. But they are a spunky bunch last year. And they weren't a tough out, despite the fact that they, were 5-10 and won. They weren't a rollover team. Even in the losses, they fought hard. So I think Arizona can carry that over. Again, more weapons for Kyler Murray. I think they could be a real team that we look up again. And they are third in the NFC West behind the Seahawks and the 49ers, but they're in a position to be in the playoffs. Again, 7 teams will make the playoffs this year. So it makes it a little easier for a surprise team to come out of nowhere and actually make a run and get to the playoffs. So for me, again, my 4 surprise playoff teams, coming off of Major League Baseball having some already surprise playoff teams like the White Sox and the Padres. Who I think those teams are going to be in the NFL, I have the Bengals and the Chargers in the AFC, Falcons and the Cardinals in the NFC. So I'm curious your thoughts. A few weeks away from the NFL for the start of the season, 2020, as we know, has been anything but normal, anything but ordinary, and has done anything but go to plan. So why think all of a sudden the NFL is just going to be a normal year, a regular year? I don't think it's going to be. I think this lack of practice, the lack of preseason games, is going to have a bigger effect on some teams than others. So now, if you are a well-prepared team, you have a chance to catch some teams by surprise. So Bengals, Chargers in the AFC, Falcons, Cardinals in the NFC. I'm curious your thoughts. Who is that surprise playoff team in the NFL that all we're kind of sleeping on now, not really giving too much love to, giving too much respect to? Had it down 2019. Think, we'll see. That'll be interesting, but they're not going to be a playoff team. Because as we see now, that has been anything but the case. Anything has yet to go to plan. So why think the NFL will go to plan?